Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 25 seconds. 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Oh, baby. What up, Buffalo Fanatics? Z-Bot here with you. Monday night, it's the smoke break. Thank you for tuning in live right here on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube channel. Championship weekend in the books. And we are off to the Super Bowl. Not we. Two teams are. Got to be careful of my use of the word we. We indeed are not off to the Super Bowl, but the Rams and, wait for it, the Cincinnati Bengals. Say that out loud real quick. Pause for a second, and say out loud, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. I mean, listen, in my lifetime, it's tough to fathom the Bills ever making it. That's just where my head's at, of course. It's tough going through all we've gone through. The Bengals are right up there with that mindset. I mean, it's really hard to wrap your head around the fact that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. It's miraculous. I am stoked for the city of Cincinnati. I am stoked for Bengals fans because, look, we'll start here. There's a lot of similarities between fan bases. I know for a long time the Bills have been they've been related to the fan base of the Cleveland Browns. We've been related to various fan bases for all the wrong reasons, right? And the Cincinnati Bengals, of course, they've always been right there. They've always been right there as one of those fan bases who, you know, quote unquote, they're snake bitten, right? They cannot get over the hump. They can't get it done. They've been there before. They've had their opportunities, but they cannot seem to get over the hump, right? In a year where I could never have guessed the Cincinnati Bengals would be representing the AFC in the Super Bowl, here it is. And it just goes to show you how amazing the parity of the NFL truly is. And that's what makes the National Football League, out of all the major sports, it is what makes the National Football League by far the best. If you watch the NBA, when the season starts, you know there's 6-7 teams, 10 maximum, who have a chance of making it to the Super Bowl, or excuse me, the NBA Finals, the NBA version of the Super Bowl. And when you look at the NFL, yeah, of course, in the beginning of the year, you have your favorites. There's 7 or 8 teams who are favorited. The Cincinnati Bengals were not one of those folks to begin the year. The Cincinnati Bengals were not one of those teams. And to further, emphasize my point, going into the playoffs, they weren't one of those teams. They were a feel-good story. Oh, wow, Cincinnati finally gets over the hump. They win the division. And I felt personally going into the playoffs, I thought Cincinnati had a terrific chance to make the AFC Championship. I thought the path that was carved out for them was a great one. I truly did. And that wound up happening. Now, I thought their luck was going to run out when they got to the AFC Championship, whether it would have been the Bills or the Chiefs. I just did not see them being able to get over a force like those two teams represent, especially with how weak their offensive line is and really has been throughout the entire playoffs. Yet with the worst offensive line by far in the entire playoffs, here they still stand. Here they are representing the AFC. So the one thing I think that everybody went into this weekend with was the mindset of, okay, how am I going to feel better about last week? What outcome this weekend is going to make me feel better? And when I say feel better, I mean, make me stomach what happened last week a bit better. You're never going to feel better about what happened last week, but you know what I'm getting at. Going into this weekend, everybody had their individual ideology as to, okay, if this happens, I'll feel a little bit better about, the Bills getting knocked out, especially the way they did. For me, it was the Bengals winning. And I can't lie to you, I felt terrible all week. And shoot me in the comments how you're all feeling, by the way. I'm very interested. It's a week removed, obviously. I'm not going to sit here and talk much about that game again. It is what it is. And as I told you last week, I don't have much desire to really ever talk about it again. Although I am considering at some point in the offseason for content and, frankly, just to, face your demons. I might come on here live and rewatch the fourth quarter of the divisional game against the Chiefs live with you all and kind of just go play by play and finally put it to bed. I think if the more I try to avoid it happening, the more it's going to haunt me. Now, I told you very, very aggressively that I would never watch it again, but I've had a lot of people talk to me about that mindset. And I think the more you look at it like that, the more it haunts you, right? I mean, frankly, I think that's probably psychology 101. You have to confront your problems. My biggest problem right now is that game. And I think if I, face it head on one more time and put it to bed, it might help. But regardless, the one thing I went into this weekend was trying to figure out, okay, what's going to happen this weekend so I can feel a bit better about the Bills not showing up in this game this weekend. And my mindset was, okay, I think I'm going to feel better if the Bengals get it done. And as the week progressed, look, when I was last with you Monday, and by the way, thank you for tuning in. I know I was going to take a break. I don't know what the plan is in regard to that. All I know is I feel better when I hop on here, and we all said a lot of things and felt a lot of things last week that we might not be necessarily feeling and saying now. And I know I said I wanted to take a break. I know you guys felt like you probably needed a break, but yet again, here we are. Football still goes on. Life still goes on. And why not hop on here with my fellow fanatics and talk football? So that was where my mind was. I said, okay, if the Bengals win, I think I'm going to feel better. But as the week progressed and the initial sting of the loss started to diminish a bit, I mean, you get going through your daily routine, you start putting it in the past a little bit. I was finally starting to separate from it as much as I could. But Sunday afternoon hit, and it was almost like I went right back to the same feeling I had last Sunday night. Watching the Bengals and the Chiefs take the field, it was really when it hit me. I should be at One Bills Drive right now. I should be in the stadium. I should be with 70,000 of my closest friends cheering on the Bills for a very, very good chance to make the Super Bowl. It hit me right there. It all came back crushing down. That was what really hurt the most. The loss, it is what it is. The thought of knowing in that moment, that day, as I'm sitting on the couch, right, in my pajamas, I should have been in my Zubas. I should have been in my Bills coat. I should have had 3 or 4 layers on, and I should have been sitting in the stands watching the Bills. That's when it really started to hurt again. And then when the Chiefs started to roll the Bengals in the first half, folks, it was on pace to be what the Bills did to the Patriots in Wild Card Weekend. That's what we were on pace to witness. 21-3, they scored a touchdown on their first 3 possessions. The Chiefs looked like they were the best in the league. They looked like they belonged in that game. They were going to win the Super Bowl, right? I mean, seriously, that's how it felt. I had buddies texting me, I'm turning this game off. I can't stand watching the Chiefs dominate any longer. And I totally understood it. I get it. I'm like, yeah, this sucks. This sucks. All I wanted today was a good game at the very least, right? And it felt like we weren't even going to touch that. The Chiefs were going to run away. It really did have that feeling that the Bills game had against the Patriots, where it was just, wow, one team showed up, the other team didn't, and they got their foot on the gas and the brakes are broken. Everything changed in the second half. So at first I was like, man, this is what the Bills would be doing to the Bengals right now. This is what the Bills would be doing. They would be dismantling the Bengals. We wouldn't even have had to worry about a close game. It would have been one gigantic party in Buffalo, and then boom, we're off to the Super Bowl, right? Man, that's how it felt. But that second half, it made me feel a lot better. And when that game ended, finally, for what felt like the first time in a full week, I was able to have some sort of relief. The Bengals got it done. Now, there's a variety of different ways you could have approached this weekend. There's plenty of people, because I tweeted this out. I said, I'm not saying I feel better about last week as the Bengals won, but I'm not saying it either. As if to say, listen, I'm never going to feel better about last week, but shit, man, I feel a little bit better now that the Bengals got the Chiefs out of the contention. Chiefs are done. There's a lot of people who feel worse because the Bengals won. I want to sit here with you to start the show off and kind of attack both angles. Because at the end of the day, there's two ways to look at it. And I'm not saying one is right or wrong. Everybody's got their opinion. But it's healthy, I think, to look at both sides of the coin and, finally try to move on from last week. Because that's all we can do at this point, right? So for me, here's the reason why I feel better. Because the Bengals got it done. One, all of a sudden, in a way that you never thought imaginable, who has more momentum going into the offseason now? The Bills or the Chiefs? The answer is the Bills. That loss for the Chiefs, as demoralizing as the loss for the Bills was last week, that loss for the Chiefs is more demoralizing. Tough to understand. I get it. It's even tough for me to put into words, especially the ways the Bills lost. But the Bills didn't blow the game against the Chiefs. They blew a 13-second drive. That's what wound up happening. They blew a 13-second opportunity to move on. They didn't blow an entire game. That game was back and forth from beginning to end, and it was inevitable in the first quarter. Whoever had the ball last was going to win it. That's what wound up being the case. The Chiefs-Bengals game, it was over. Stick a fork in it. This game is done. The Chiefs are winning this game going away. The Bills might have blown a 13-second opportunity, but they didn't blow an entire game. And they didn't blow an entire game at home with the Super Bowl on the line to an inferior team. And not only an inferior team, a team that they had lost to already this month. The beginning of January, the Chiefs had lost to the Bengals. Major upset. And that was the game where Joe Burrow absolutely went off. Jamar Chase had 266 yards, one of the greatest days a wide receiver has ever had, let alone a rookie. It was unbelievable. The Chiefs were going in as the team who everybody knew was going to win the Super Bowl the way they played last week. And they were going to do that all the way into the locker room. And as soon as Tyreek Hill could not get into the end zone with a few seconds remaining before the first half, everything switched. They blew that game. They didn't even show up in the second half. I'll tell you this, the Bills, and I want to believe this, and I'll always believe this, the Bills would have beaten the Bengals. I'll never know if they would have. I'll never know if they would not have, right? We'll never know. But in my heart of hearts, the Bills are in that game. They win. And we know this because what did they do to the Patriots? They got off to the same start they did. They got off to that same start against the Patriots that the Chiefs did against the Bengals, and they just kept going. They just kept cruising. The Chiefs, they stopped in their tracks. I do not see Josh Allen the way he had been playing in these playoffs and the Bills in their entirety. I cannot possibly fathom that the Bills could blow a 21-3 lead. I don't see it. I just don't see it. Now, the Chiefs, I would have made the same argument, but we know this with the Chiefs. When they wind up not being able to get it going on offense, when Mahomes loses that magic, they're a very ordinary team. And it's almost like there's a lot that rides on the mentality going into the game. The Chiefs' mentality going into the Bills game was, well, we're basically underdogs. That we're only a 1.5 favorite. And if you know gambling, you're awarded 3 points for being at home. So Vegas is essentially telling you we shouldn't win this game. A lot of media was on the Bills. A lot of media was trying to tell you Josh Allen is better than Mahomes. You guys already know all this, right? You already know all this. So the Chiefs go into that game with a chip on their shoulder. And it's tough to imagine the Chiefs having a chip on their shoulder. They've been the best team in the NFL for a handful of seasons now. But going into this game, there was none of that. They were expected to win. They were expected to dominate. And frankly, they were expected to win the whole thing. And they did that for a half. But they left their foot off the gas. They gave that game away. They didn't show up in the second half. They scored 3 points. They couldn't amass over 100 yards through the air the entirety of the second half. And you got to give credit to the Bengals. They stood their ground. They stayed the course. Plenty of other teams would have packed it in at 21-3. That's where you have to give credit to the Bengals. But what's the bigger story here? The Bengals coming from behind and putting together a great comeback, or the Chiefs imploding? I think we all know the answer. It's the Chiefs imploding. They truly collapsed. Let's get to some super chats here. I see you guys all coming in. Appreciate all you guys joining in. We got over 100 in here. Smash that like button, hit the subscribe, all those good things. Starting back up here at the top, we got my man Nate 15. He's coming in saying, just want this season to be over and done with and see what we do in the off season. I'm with you there, Nate. Hold on, my brother. We only got 2 more weeks. Hopefully the Super Bowl is a good one. If history tells us, based on what these last couple of weeks have been in the playoffs, we're in for a treat. And not for nothing, the nice thing about this this Super Bowl, there's no Brady, there's no Rodgers, there's no Mahomes. It's a clean slate. Frankly, I don't really care who wins. It'd be an awesome story if the Bengals win. It'd be an awesome story for Matt Stafford and the Rams if they win. So finally, you have a Super Bowl where you can just kind of enjoy it, which is rare. You're usually having some team in there that you absolutely hate. And I think for the majority of all football fans, they're in the mindset of, okay, finally, it's just something different, at least. That's nice to see. My man CP, Connor Parahus, coming in with the super sticker. Much love, Connor. See you in a couple weeks, my brother. Appreciate you coming down here. We got Jason Millard. Jason saying, Allen is living in Mahomes' world. Allen got respect with his play in the playoffs, but now Jay Burr will be considered better than Allen. That's now the unfortunate pain. No. I'll get into that in a little bit here, Jason, but that's not what you should take away from this. And if anybody takes that away from this playoffs, they're big time wrong. Joe Burrow's a hell of a player. And Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, they're going to be here to stay. He ain't Josh Allen. Nobody else is. It's Mahomes and Josh Allen at the top of the league right now, folks. You watched that game last week. Joe Burrow had a hell of a game, and he made some incredible plays. He ain't Josh Allen. Now, the media can say whatever they want. That's going to get clicks. Is Joe Burrow better than Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen? We all know this. We saw articles that said Tua was better than Josh Allen 2 years ago. We had to hear that Mac Jones was better than Allen. Get used to a lot of that. It's lonely at the top, Buffalo Fanatics. It's lonely at the top. And everybody wants to bring down the guy at the top. Mahomes and Allen are at the top. So everybody's going to have those hit pieces. Joe Burrow better? He's a damn good quarterback. Incredible quarterback. I mean, look what he's doing. He might become the 3rd player in history to win an FBS championship and a Super Bowl. He's the 1st player to be drafted 1 overall and make the Super Bowl in his 2nd year, let alone coming off of a year where he had a season-ending injury. I'm not going to discredit anything Joe Burrow's doing. If you heard me in previous shows, I thought Joe Burrow was the MVP this year. I got laughed at. Who's laughing now? Guys in the Super Bowl. Give me a break. With one of the worst offensive lines in the league, unreal year. He ain't Josh Allen. He ain't Josh Allen. Rico coming in. He's saying, rewatch the game, you coward. You'll appreciate how great Josh was, and you'll get to see what we did wrong versus the Chiefs. It's funny Rico says that because I was thinking about inviting Rico on for that idea that I had about coming on here and rewatching that 4th quarter. We'll see who the coward is then. I'll invite Rico. We'll actually do that. We will do that. Plan on it. I'll let you all know when that winds up happening. We'll see who the real coward is, if Rico shows up or if he doesn't. Let's see if he's got the balls to do it. But no, yeah, as of right now, definitely a coward. I have yet to watch any highlights. I've yet to watch any replay, obviously. That's why I think it would be a cool concept to come on here and do it with you, right? Because it would be raw. I mean, when I'm talking raw, I mean, like, I haven't seen a damn thing from that game. So if I come on here and watch it with you, you're getting what you get. That's basically, you're living it with me. So let's get back to what happened with the Chiefs and the Bengals, because I think that there's a variety of ways to look at it. There's a lot of people who are like, they're down in the dumps that the Bengals are the ones going off. There's a lot of people who are excited that at least, if it couldn't be the Bills, it's the Bengals. The Chiefs are out. That's where I'm at, right? I understand both ways to look at it. A lot of people, for starters, who are upset that the Bengals are going off to the Super Bowl, is they're saying, well, I'm mad because Joe Burrow is going to the Super Bowl before Josh Allen. That's fine. Back up to Jason's point. Yeah, that's great. Great for Joe Burrow. Great for the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow having a miracle season with the Cincinnati Bengals does not mean that he is better than the Bills. It does not mean the Bengals organization is better than the Bills. They had a magic run. I mean, back when the Giants ended, because I personally think that this berth for the Bengals, I think this is the most shocking Super Bowl berth since back in the Giants' heyday when they knocked off the Patriots twice. But even though the Giants won those games, we all knew they weren't better than the Patriots. We all knew Eli Manning wasn't better than Tom Brady. And of course, in the moment, those arguments were being had, right? Of course they were, because they're hot topics. I'm excited for Cincinnati. I'm excited for Joe Burrow. Listen, if it was the Bills, we would want everybody to be a part of it with us. We'd want everybody to be excited for us, right? Think about it. If the Bills made it all the way to the Super Bowl, how many people do you know who aren't Bills fans? How many people do you know would reach out to you congratulating you? You went through all of this misery for this long. It's finally paying off as a fan. You're experiencing the thing you've been waiting for forever. I had a lot of people prematurely reach out to me after Gabe Davis caught the touchdown with 13 seconds left. Not Bills fans, congratulating me, super excited for me. That's what you want. And I look at the Bengals fan base and I look at the Bengals organization when you're talking about the last 20 so years, very linear to what the Bills have gone through and what us as Bills Mafia have gone through. So because of that, I am excited and happy for the Bengals and their fan base. We would all want that too. We really would. And I have to be the bigger man here. And I also have to understand, who would I rather root for in the Super Bowl coming out of the AFC? Mahomes or Joe Burrow? The Chiefs or the Bengals? To me, it's as simple as that. But I do understand people are like, I'm bummed. Joe Burrow in his second year, he's going to get an opportunity for the big one before Allen. It happens. That's the beauty of the NFL. That's the beauty of this game we all love. And it also makes me feel better about a variety of different things. I was saying this last week. The window for the Bills felt like it was this year and it keeps shrinking, right? Especially now that Daboll's gone. We'll get into that throughout the show. But I felt that the window this year, and I still think this, the window this year was about as good as it could get, right? I mean, think about it. Rodgers gone, Brady gone. If they would have won, they would have knocked off Mahomes. The AFC Championship would have been at home. I think they would have had a favorable matchup, whether it had been the Rams or the 49ers. I think the Bills would have been favored in that game, truthfully. They would have been the favorite to win it all. The window of opportunity was definitely its widest, right? But think about it. Yeah, there's windows, and you need to capitalize on the opportunities you get. But the Chiefs or the Bengals just disproved all of that. The Bengals just proved to you anything can happen at any given time in any given year for any given team. So where I was last week, man, this was the opportunity. I don't know if they're ever going to get that good of an opportunity again. You go into the season as a Bengals fan, and you don't think you're ever going to have an opportunity this season. You don't even know if you're going to make the playoffs, right? And here you sit. So I go into next season, and I'm more optimistic about what the Bills got. I'm more optimistic about the window. And as arc omens, this is a great way to put it right here. You got to open your own windows, man. You're damn right. The Bengals opened up every window possible on this trip to the Super Bowl. They could not die. They're that guy in the video game, the boss that you just can't get over. You know you're doing the right things, so it seems. It seems like you got the level beat. You lose it every time. The Bengals have 9 lives. They're a legitimate cat. A Bengal, right, or the tiger, whatever. They are considered a cat. These Bengals have 9 lives. They got sacked 9 times against the Titans. They win. They give the Raiders an opportunity late in the game to go on a drive to tie it. They shut them down. And in a game where they had no business winning it, they stand their ground. They do all the little things right in the second half. They took advantage of their opportunities. Boom. They're in the Super Bowl. A lot of things have to go right. And unfortunately for the Bills, in the game against the Chiefs, it was that one little thing at the end of the game that did not go right. And they're sitting at home. The Bengals did everything right. And even though they weren't the better team in now what will be 3 straight games, could I possibly rule the Bengals out this weekend? Could I possibly rule them out? If I had a gun to my head, I'd have to take the Rams, right? They're the better team on paper, 100%. But how could you bet against the Bengals right now? They just seem like a team of destiny, and that's what the NFL is all about. That's what it's all about. They just seem like a team of destiny. No matter what you do to them, no matter how down and out they are, they're moving on to the next round. I mean, I can't emphasize this enough. They knocked off the 1 seed on the road in a game where they got sacked 9 times. It's never happened. Then they go into Arrowhead. Nobody had beaten Mahomes in the playoffs but Tom Brady. And Joe Burrow and the Bengals, of all people, are the ones to do it? Wild. Down 21-3. They lose the coin toss in overtime. It's absolutely insanity. And look at SNT, SBC coming and say, KC just choked. Don't hype these guys. Guess what? They didn't choke against the Bills. I understand it's not giving an insane amount of credit to the Bengals because I don't think they're a better team than the Chiefs. Nobody with eyes does. But they took advantage of the opportunities. Yes, the Chiefs blew the game. It didn't mean that they had to lose the game. They could have easily have still won that game as poorly as they played in the second half. Easily could have lost that, or easily could have won that game. The Bengals took advantage of what was in front of them. The Chiefs blew that game, no question. They had a terrible second half, yet they still should have probably won it. They had every opportunity to. I mean, they got down to the 3-yard line before regulation ended. Mahomes never gets sacked. They sack him twice. You got to give some credit to the Bengals. The defensive scheme in the second half, they did what the Bills could not do all game last week. They couldn't get to Mahomes. They couldn't stop Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce. They could not dictate the game on defense. The Bengals did. I understand the Chiefs blew it. I understand they collapsed. But the Bengals defense showed up, and they did some stuff in that second half that nobody's been able to accomplish against the Chiefs. It was truly miraculous. I mean, we're talking about forcing 2 interceptions, and that's the other thing you have to remember here, too. The reason that the Chiefs are going home and the Bengals are moving on is because the Chiefs put that game on a silver platter for the Bengals. They didn't do that against the Bills. If the Bills would have had a couple of those breaks, they're moving on 100%. If Mahomes throws even 1 interception in the game against the Bills move on, right? But they played a perfect game, and so did the Bills. So it's just, that's the craziness of football. You can put together an absolutely magnificent, flawless performance, and the next week just fall flat on your face. And they carried in that flawless performance from the divisional game against the Bills into the first half against the Bengals and still lost. So I look at it like this. Yeah, I mean, it's really tough to find any silver lining after that Bills loss. But when I look at it, going into the offseason, who's got more momentum? The Bills, who lost an absolute dogfight to the Chiefs in 13 seconds. Josh Allen had one of the best playoff performances ever. Gabe Davis quite literally had one of the greatest, if not the greatest, wide receiver performance ever in the playoffs. And they lose. It was a heartbreaker, no question. But they're going into the offseason knowing they played their damn best football. They got probably the damn best quarterback in the league, and they got an offense that nobody can stop. The Chiefs, on the other hand, they lose to the Bengals at home in a game that they had won. Who's hanging their head more going into the offseason? The Bills or the Chiefs? And I'm looking at it from the Bills fan side of things, where my answer would almost always be, man, the Bills got to be hanging their heads high or lower than the Chiefs. No. In my opinion, that loss for the Chiefs, far worse, because they flat out blew it. So going into this offseason, when I was fully convinced that the Chiefs were just going to be that team heading into it next year where you still don't think that you can get over them, we realized this past weekend you can. Because if the Bengals can do it, the Bills can too. And they were 13 seconds away from doing it. So I'm heading into this offseason more optimistic after that game than I was following last week. 100%. And I think we all should feel that way too. Now, on the other hand, the people that wanted the Chiefs to get there, I understand that thought process as well, right? Because you're thinking, all right, well, the Chiefs go on and win it. That kind of just shows you that would have been the Bills who, would have done the same. That, to me, that doesn't make me feel better. because that's just making me feel like it should have been the Bills, and it wasn't. It wasn't. I'm not getting any satisfaction that the Chiefs get another trophy. That doesn't do anything for me. Oh, they beat the Bills and they go on to win it, so that makes me feel better. Why? I feel better knowing that, one, they're beatable, obviously. Two, they go into the offseason, I think, at a much, not as riding high as they would have had they have gone the distance, right? And I also feel like it puts them back down to earth. It puts them back down to earth because they were playing football at such a high level that it really felt like they were in a class of their own, and that was that. We learned a lot about the Chiefs this past weekend. Truly crazy. Jason Miller coming back in saying Bengals played better situational defense than we did. That's the main difference between us and the Bengals versus the Chiefs. 100%. I mean, there's no arguing that. I can't get over the way that the Bengals approached that second half. It was truly remarkable. And to lose the coin toss and find a way to turn over Mahomes and get that game done. I mean, I'm still stunned. Just an utter team of destiny, it seems like, really. I mean, how else can you describe it? They had no business winning that game, and here they are. I still can't believe when you say it out loud, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. It's just wild. It's truly just wild. And I understand, man, it really should be the Bills. It really should be the Bills. But, man, out of all the other teams that it could have been, if it wasn't going to be the Bills, I mean, why not the Bengals? A fan base that has been struggling as long as we have. I'm super excited for them. And then on the other side, you got the Rams in a game that, that's the cool thing over the weekend. They were both great games. But you realize in the in the Rams 49ers game, you realize how much it truly matters to have an elite QB. Another reason to be, obviously we already know this, but another reason to be optimistic heading into next season. The 49ers lost that game because they didn't have a quarterback who could run a 2-minute drill. They didn't have a quarterback who could score more than 17 points. If the Rams played the Bills the way they played the 49ers on championship weekend, if that was the Super Bowl, the Bills are putting one in the trophy case. 100%. We learned in that game how valuable it is to have a franchise quarterback. And, like Rico said earlier, go back and watch the game to truly realize the greatness of Josh Allen. I don't need to rewatch anything to realize it. That's solidified at this point. And the nice thing to know is, even though, once again, I'm contradicting myself, but this is what happens when you're emotional in the moment. Last week, I say, the window is, it might not ever be back there again, right? With Josh Allen, it's hard to say it's never not going to be there, right? And you look at what teams are able to accomplish with far less talent. I mean, the 49ers got all the way to the NFC Championship and were a 2-minute drill away from making the Super Bowl, and Jimmy G isn't even a top 15 quarterback. Not even close. And you realize in that moment what it means to have a guy like that. The game against the Chiefs last week, that game doesn't even have a chance to go to overtime without Josh Allen. That game doesn't even come down to the 13 seconds without Josh Allen. We don't even get to experience that heartbreak if it wasn't for Josh Allen, because it wouldn't have been a heartbreak. It would have been a blowout. Without Josh Allen in that game, it's not close. That's the craziness of it. And then with the Bengals, right? Joe Burrow, he is solidifying himself as a top-tier quarterback. If the Bengals don't have Joe Burrow, if they don't have an elite offensive weaponry, they're not moving on. So we realize what's getting it done here. It's continuing to prove itself week in and week out, and the Bills have all of those assets. That's the cool thing. And it's so tough to look at it after last week, but something about the Bengals winning that game, it gave me this, I think it just gave me what I needed. It gave me what I needed. It just made me realize that it's really, it truly is a week in and week out game. You cannot take your foot off the gas no matter what the circumstance is. And I don't know, man. In my opinion, if the Chiefs would have gone the distance and won the whole thing, it would have made me feel a lot worse. And I understand there's people out there who feel the opposite, and I get it. There's two different ways to look at it. As I've been saying, I totally understand that. But knowing that the Bengals were able to go out and pull that off, knowing that it didn't have to be the team that broke the Bills' hearts going on and getting it done, it's super awesome. So that's that. The stage is set. It's Bengals, it's Rams, Super Bowl 2 weeks from yesterday. What an unbelievably unlikely matchup. Crazy. And you go from never having a home team in playing at their home stadium in the Super Bowl. You go 2 years in a row here. Although it's not really a home game for the Rams. I mean, there wasn't a home game last week. Their fan base does not show up. I think there's going to be a ton of Bengals fans there. They've been waiting 30 plus years to go and enjoy one of those. I imagine there's going to be just as many, if not more, Bengals fans in that stadium than Rams fans. So I don't know how much of a home game it is. Obviously, the benefit is you don't have to travel at all. But once again, 2 years in a row, a home Super Bowl for the NFC team, and just an unbelievably unlikely matchup. And all you can hope for is a great game. I'm rooting for the Bengals. I understand that there's, all throughout Bills Mafia, I've been seeing people on different sides, who they're rooting for. The cool thing is, I think you win either way. If the Rams win, Matt Stafford gets one, and I think that's just awesome. What he's been able to accomplish with the Rams, his first year out of misery with the Detroit Lions, I just think that's a super cool story. And it proves to you that in the NFL, you can win two different ways. Look at what the Rams did. The Rams got rid of every single first-round draft pick that they had. They signed every big name that was out there. They basically paid their way to the Super Bowl, and they show you can win that way. You can get it done that way. On the other side, the Bengals show you can get it done the complete opposite way. You can build through the draft. You can have one of the worst teams in football the last several seasons. And if you draft correctly, if you get the right guys in the right spot, you can go the distance. It's a really cool matchup because when you look at it from both sides, you really get the two different ways to be successful in the NFL. I've never really seen a matchup like it before. I don't think we ever have. It's crazy. It's craziness. But that's what we got. 2 weeks from yesterday at SoFi Stadium in LA, it's the Rams. It is the Bengals. It's really not hit me yet. It's just so surreal to think that a couple weeks from now, I'll be watching the orange and black striped Bengals uniforms on Super Bowl Sunday. I just can't get over it. It's wild. It's wild. Tons happened over this weekend. It wasn't just championship weekend and the games that went down over the last couple of days. A lot more happened in the NFL, including what happened with Brian Daboll and the Bills, including what happened with our best pal, Tom Brady. We'll dive into both of those storylines after a quick word from our friends over at NordVPN.
Are you out of market, but the NFL Sunday ticket is just too expensive? Hey, this is Pierre the Kingpin from the Buffalo Fanatics, and do we have a deal for you? Watching all NFL games live while having the ability to watch the replay whenever you'd like is what makes the NFL Sunday ticket so popular. The issue is the pricing is just outrageous. Getting DAZN along with NordVPN will cut that price in half. Here are the details. Go to supportbf.com and sign up for DAZN. Then go back and sign up for NordVPN. Once done, just switch your VPN to Canada and sign into DAZN. Now sit back and enjoy some football. It's the Kingpin, and I'm out.
That's our friends over at NordVPN. Go take advantage of that awesome deal. The BFVPN.com. Head over there. Get on it. Scrolling back up here, Zach Adamek comes in and says, Nick Wright said he's concerned about how the Bills' heartbreaking loss would affect them moving forward. That's something he's got to be concerned about when it comes to the Chiefs now, and I love it. Yes, sir. I actually tweeted that video out because it's the first thing I thought of. And I'm not going to lie, I had a very similar mindset to Nick Wright's after that game. When you lose the way the Bills have lost the past couple of seasons where you're so close yet so far, how does it not have an emotional toll, right? But for him to say that and then have the Chiefs lose in even more heartbreaking and dismantling fashion was very ironic. And that's another reason why I'm trying to look at it on the other end here because, yeah, I do think the Bills, it's going to be really tough to get over that game, right? But what I think if I'm in that locker room and I look at what happened this past weekend, Josh Allen tweeted it out. Pain, no doubt. Pain. Because they know they'd be moving on. They should be there, right? They should be going to the Super Bowl. but they're not, right? And once you realize that you're not, and you can get over that, I would look at this last Sunday and saying, man, it's anything can happen. Anybody can go. Our window's not closed. It's here to stay. If I'm here, if Josh Allen's here, we got a chance, right? And we're always going to be in the mix. And if the Bengals can knock them off, we can too. We were 13 seconds away from doing it. Next year, we're going to make sure that's not even a problem. I don't know. I really can't put it into words exactly why I feel this way, but I just feel better after the Bengals winning it. I don't know. I feel like I would have felt incredibly sick if the Chiefs went on to rip our hearts out like that and get it done. I'm just happy that the Bengals got to slay Goliath because we were 13 seconds away and I just wanted somebody else to do it. I truly did. Okay, here we are. A wild weekend that was championship weekend, and it didn't even include both games, which were both great. We had a lot of storylines coming out of the NFL, and we'll start with the one that affects the Bills, and that's, of course, OC Brian Daboll. No longer the offensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills. He takes the head coaching job with the New York Giants. A lot to unpack in this one. A lot of people feel one way or the other. I tweeted out, I don't understand why anybody is excited for Brian Daboll to leave this team. My God, I wasn't ready for the onslaught of different opinions that people seem to have. I mean, my God, there are people on both sides of this argument that are incredibly passionate. We're talking about people who hated Brian Daboll, couldn't wait to get him out of here. I'll get the cab for you. I'll drive you to New York. I want you gone. Then there's guys like me who thought, hey, yeah, I mean, there were points in time throughout every season where you're like, Jesus, Daboll, what are you doing? You're going to run it again on 2nd and 10? I mean, and we clearly can't get any yardage here. You're just throwing away plays. But you got to understand, people, okay? That's every coach. Belichick has had his blunders. Did you watch the wild card 2 weeks ago? Every coach has their blunders. Bill Belichick didn't have an answer for Josh Allen, didn't have an answer for the Bills. No answer. They got destroyed. He's the greatest coach in history. Hell, he didn't have an answer for Eli Manning in 2 Super Bowls. Every coach has their weakness. Brian Daboll, yes, there were games. Do I need to bring up the Jacksonville Jaguars game where it just was bad? Flat out bad, no other way to put it. There were also games that were incredibly great. That Patriots game, unbelievably coached by Brian Daboll. That Chiefs game, a great coaching job by Brian Daboll. He put that offense in a position to go to the AFC Championship. He did his job. Everybody keeps saying, well, Josh Allen is the reason that Brian Daboll is successful. That's an easy argument. That's low-hanging fruit because it's easy to say that. Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So, yeah, okay, he makes the job, right? That's like saying, Josh McDaniels, who just got hired to be the Raiders coach. Shocking. That was a shocking hire. I'd never thought he'd leave New England. You don't think Josh McDaniels is a good offensive coordinator just because he had Tom Brady as his quarterback? You could argue that system in New England is the reason Brady was as good as he was. And Josh McDaniels had a lot to do with that. They got Josh Allen in his rawest form his rookie year. And they had to mold him and shape him and curate the offense for his success. That definitely had some sort of factor, whether small or large, on Josh Allen being who he is today. Now, you're not giving the credit to Brian Daboll for Josh Allen being arguably the best quarterback in the NFL. Of course not. But he was the offensive coordinator during the period in which Josh Allen rose to that success. You don't think he played a little bit of a part in it? And to want him gone, I just don't understand it. You should never, when you're succeeding, you should never want to lose parts of the team that have helped you reach that success. But unfortunately, this is first world problems of a top tier franchise in the NFL, something we haven't experienced for 2 decades. We're not used to this. When you get to the top, you are going to have your personnel poached because every other team in the NFL wants a little bit of what you got going on. That's why the Giants are essentially becoming the New Jersey version of the Buffalo Bills in this offseason. They want what the Bills got. We want Brian Daboll. We want somebody who potentially can make Daniel Jones a serviceable quarterback. We want somebody who can help bring a franchise from poverty to wealth. And listen, that's easier. See you later. Take care. You want to talk about poverty? Poverty is the command hooks. I had that on. Poverty. What in God's name am I doing? I had that thing on Scotch tape. I will fix that next week. I'm not doing it right now. Pierre's got to be laughing his ass off. He just sent me that thing. Pierre just sent me that thing. This is the first damn show I've had an actual background. If you've been watching me, you know I got like cooking shit in the background for the last several weeks. I finally get this thing up, and it shits the bed on me. Whatever. Pierre, where's the quality control, my guy? God. But what I'm saying here is this is the telltale sign that your franchise has reached a peak. It's reached where you want to be in the NFL landscape. When you got other teams trying to nab your coaches, your personnel, what does that tell you? You're doing a damn good job. So right there, I think that kind of silenced the Daboll haters, right? If he wasn't doing a good job, nobody would want him. You can argue how much he played in the success of the Bills and their offense and Josh Allen. No one's ever going to really know the answer to that. We will find out a little bit about that this year if the Bills go on to have an incredibly dominant offensive year and top the last 2 years. Okay, well, go ahead. All right, Brian Daboll, yeah, he was a good coach, but he clearly wasn't, the main reason this offense was succeeding. If they regress, you're going to have the other side saying, well, we really wish we had Brian Daboll around still, don't we? I mean, that's the way it goes. And the crazy thing is, if it goes one way or the other, it still might not have anything to do with Brian Daboll. But the one thing that we need to get used to here as Bills fans is this is going to be what happens, especially when you have a defensive coach like Sean McDermott, right? When you have a defensive coach, that means your OC is always going to be rotating if your offense is successful. Because when you have an offensive coach, it's not necessarily the offensive coordinator isn't necessarily the end all be all when it comes to the offense. You got a guy who's running that portion of the team in your head coaching spot, like Andy Reid. I mean, Eric Bieniemy is doing an incredible job, obviously. But if they lost Eric Bieniemy, which they should, somebody give that guy a job, for God's sakes. Ridiculous. But if and when they lose Eric Bieniemy, the Chiefs and their offense are going to be fine. Why? They have Patrick Mahomes. They have Andy Reid. The Bills' offense is going to be fine. They have Josh Allen. I understand Sean McDermott, he's not the offensive mind of the team, right? But they have Josh Allen. So the one thing that's the cool part of this, right? The offensive coordinator job in Buffalo right now has to be one of, if not the most desirable coaching position in all of pro football. Who would not want an opportunity to go and coach Josh Allen? One, and two, have a very good opportunity for the foreseeable future to make a run at a championship. And three, if I do that as the OC, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to be Brian Daboll. I'm going to get a head coaching job. So it's good and bad, right? It's good in the fact that you attract really good candidates for that position. It's bad in the sense that if that guy winds up filling the vacancy beautifully and the Bills succeed like they have been, you can expect that OC to move. When you have a really good offense with a defensive-minded coach, the OC position is a carousel. It's going to continue to spin. But at the end of the day, man, the way you got to look at it, 17's at QB. Frankly, I really don't care who's calling the plays. Just call them in a way that benefits the strengths of this offense. And I think that was a huge complaint for Brian Daboll. But guess what? There's going to be an OC who comes in. I don't know who it's going to be yet. We all don't know. But when that guy comes in, there's going to be a whole onslaught of people wanting his ass canned 2 weeks in because they ran the ball and they didn't get 5 yards, right? You know, that's the NFL, man. It's called fandom fanatics for a reason. It doesn't make sense. So we get that way. And you know me, you've been watching me. I'm an emotional wreck. good and bad. When the Bills are winning, I'm way too high. When the Bills are losing, I'm underneath the floorboards. So I got to find a way to get my email shit off here, by the way. I know that goes through here. It's not important. Who's emailing me at 8:50 on a Monday night? Leave me alone. But that's the reality of the situation. Now, Brian Daboll himself, let's talk about him. I feel bad for him. I feel bad for him. I'm happy for him and his family because it's an awesome opportunity. You got to think that anytime that you are an assistant coach, the goal is to be a head coach. And when you get there, that's got to be an incredible accomplishment. I mean, think about it from your own life. When you're going through life, there's levels to this. You progress. And say you have a job and your dream is to get to the management level or whatever, and you get to that spot, you're going to feel damn proud. But with that role comes a lot of added responsibility. And it's all hinging on how successful the organization that you're working for is around you, right? Now, if you're working for a Fortune 500 company, a very successful company, and you work your way up the ranks and you become the manager, you're probably in good shape. The New York Giants ain't no Fortune 500 company. They are a penny stock. They are the stocks that Jordan Belfort was illegally selling in the beginning of Wolf of Wall Street that made him millions. That aerodynamic shit that he was selling to people who had no clue. That's who the Giants are right now. Can Brian Daboll be the Giants' Jordan Belfort? Can he turn penny stocks into gold? It's a tall order because nobody's been able to do it. I know it's crazy to think because the Giants are one of the most historic franchises in the NFL. And, within the last 2 decades, they have 2 rings. Improbable, but they have 2 rings. The Giants in recent years, they've been abysmal. They have been, I don't have the stat in front of me, but I think as far as record is concerned, they have been one of, if not the worst team in the NFL over a very long stretch of time. They are bad. They are poorly run. They have an incredibly weak personnel on the field and off of it. There's a reason they've been going through coaches and GMs. It's not working in New York. It's just not working. Brian Daboll's work is cut out for him. And I'll tell you this right now. If there's not major changes made on that roster, they're not going far. I don't care who the head coach is, let alone a first-year head coach in Brian Daboll. Daniel Jones, he ain't it. And Brian Daboll's going to realize real quick, Daniel Jones and Josh Allen, that's, what's that Lil Wayne quote? Your local news, I'm 60 minutes, okay? Josh Allen, 60 minutes. Daniel Jones, local news. Now, I'm rooting for Brian Daboll. I'm rooting for him. I think he's a great coach. He's got a great attitude. I think he's a great fit for a team who's really trying to build from bottom to top, restructure this organization, get an offensive mind in there, get back to where they want to be as an organization, where they used to be. It's going to be a tall order. The one thing I hope does not happen to Brian Daboll is that the Giants give up on him 3 years in. Because you cannot expect immediate success. You cannot expect immediate success from this Giants organization with Brian Daboll. It's going to take at least 2-3 years to be in playoff contention. Now, of course, we all could be proved wrong. We just saw what the Bengals did, okay? The Bengals are playing in the Super Bowl in 2 weeks. Don't ask me. I don't understand any of it. What do I know? But the one thing I can base off of recent history, Giants are not good. And what they have right now in place, that's not able to be turned around awfully quick. And they're going to continue to stick with Daniel Jones, at least for this season. So you're already thinking right off the bat, you got 1 year where you might want to just throw it away. I don't see the Giants being in playoff contention under Daniel Jones ever. And they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do with him, what they're going to do with Saquon Barkley. There's so many moving pieces over there. So you got to give him time. And that's what I hope that the Giants organization does. I really do not hope that Brian Daboll gets ran out of town in 3 years because the Giants don't make the playoffs. The expectations should be low. Just because you're bringing in a new coach and a new GM and you're rewriting the script over there doesn't mean that script's going to be awfully good in the beginning. And I hope that, that winds up being the sentiment. Now, let's get down to brass tacks. It is New York media. That rationality doesn't exist. They're going to be on his ass like white on rice the second he takes final form. He gets into the seat when the season starts rolling around. It's going to be, New York Post, New York Times, this, that, and the other thing. All Brian Daboll. He is under a very, very, very tiny microscope. Can he handle it? That's a big jump. You go from Buffalo, an assistant coach in Buffalo, to a head coach in the biggest city in the world. That is a massive jump. Is Brian Daboll ready? I hope for his sake he is. I'm rooting for him. I don't understand the hatred towards Brian Daboll. I never will. I enjoyed his time in Buffalo. And I'm rooting for the guy. I think we all, any level-headed Bills fan is too, right? Why would you not? Why would you not root for a guy who's a part of your recent success? It's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough for Brian Daboll. Rooting for him. I got a lot of friends who are Giants fans. They're stoked. They're all coming to me asking, and that's the cool thing, right? This hire, just from talking to fellow friends who are Giants fans, they are so stoked. And as a Bills fan, man, that feels awesome. Like you got a whole other fan base who is beyond stoked to get a piece of what the Bills got going on. They're just stoked about it. They wanted Brian Daboll big time. They got him and they're excited. That's a cool feeling. So rooting for Brian Daboll, Giants got nothing to do with the Bills' success. So I guess I'm, rooting for their success. I'd rather the Giants win the NFC East than the Cowboys, plain and simple. So rooting for him. It's a great hire for the Giants. I wish him success. And now it all comes down to, what are the Bills going to do at the OC position? Everybody's saying Ken Dorsey. Well, the rumor is that Brian Daboll was a package deal in New York with Ken Dorsey. That's yet to be, put in paper. That's yet to be signed, sealed, delivered. Everybody thinks that, Ken Dorsey is this offensive guru, this offensive wizard because of his relationship with Josh Allen. He's never been an OC. Oftentimes the grass isn't always greener. Just take things for what they are. Don't automatically assume that Ken Dorsey is going to suck, and don't automatically assume that Ken Dorsey is going to be the next, Andy Reid or whatever, another Sean Payton, a great offensive mind. Take it for what it is. We as well got to give time to it. It's going to be an adjustment. When you lose an OC, that's an adjustment. Josh Allen has had, and we were lucky for this. Think about what Baker Mayfield has had to go through in Cleveland. What is it? 4 different head coaches, multiple GMs, a variety of OCs. It has been a dumpster fire out there. Now, granted, his talent, it doesn't touch Josh Allen's. I understand that. But he wasn't really given a fair shake as far as having any stability. Josh Allen had nothing but stability in Buffalo up until just last weekend. That stability is getting rocked a little bit. So we'll see what that winds up meaning. I don't think it means much when you have a guy like Josh Allen. Does it really make that big of a difference? We'll find out. I don't think so, one way or the other, but we'll see. I think that it can only go higher. That's the cool thing. What we saw from Josh Allen to end the year, we realized that ceiling that is basically non-existent. Even though, we don't know where it is, it's somewhere up, way up. Now I don't even know if you can see it. I don't know what Josh Allen's ceiling is. I don't. Does anybody? Because if you're going to play like you did against the Patriots and the Chiefs on a routinely basis, look out. I don't give a shit if I'm calling the plays. Let me call the plays. We're going to be just fine if Josh Allen's playing like that. Okay? Anybody in this comment section, and me, we could go make 6 figures, hang out in the press box, and we could just eat nachos and scroll Twitter. And if Josh Allen's going to play like that, we got a job. We're good. Okay. So it'll be interesting. I think it's exciting because it's the first time that we're seeing a bit of a shakeup, and how are they going to handle it? Is it going to improve? Because I don't see it regressing. I really don't. When you have a guy like Josh Allen, how could it regress? The cool thing, I think, is if you bring in the right guy, a guy that you really think is capable of not only deserving to coach Josh Allen. That's the thing. You're not just bringing anybody in. This is a desirable position. and you have the ability to really do your due diligence and figure out who you think is absolutely 100% not only the best guy, but the most deserving guy. And when you get that guy in, I think it'll be cool to see what the differences are and how that particular person takes advantage of Josh Allen's skill set and potentially builds on it. Whether that's Ken Dorsey, whether that's whoever. I know that today the Bills allegedly had interviewed the quarterback or wide receiver coach from the Ravens, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what that's all about. I'm not even sure the guy's name, so pardon me. I don't see that being the hire. I don't know exactly what the parameters surrounding that is, but I highly doubt that's where they go. But then again, Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. What do I know? So that's that. Exciting stuff. Obviously, it's a little bit unsettling in the fact that this is the first time that Josh Allen is going to have that structure a bit shaken up. But, my girlfriend who's in here watching, she always tells me this when we just talking on the phone earlier today about something. It's like, you got a situation that's tough, right? It's a lot better to look at the situation and the way you can handle it in a better way and in the way that you can attack it with a positive mindset. So that's what I'm going to do here. I liked Brian Daboll a lot. I loved what he did with the Bills while he was here, but there's an opening now. And I think it's cool that, it's going to be a guy who is, not just somebody that that you just pick up off the street. Because some of these jobs, who would want them? Seriously, like who would want that job? Like who would want these jobs? Who would want to coach? Like if I'm a head coach right now, it's a mess in Miami. There's a reason they haven't hired a guy yet. Like what's going on there? You see how poorly run they are. The insane off the field situations that they constantly seem to find themselves in. It's a tough spot. You look at the Saints, they're in complete rebuild mode. Their cap it's basically like they just you give your 15-year-old daughter a credit card and say, go to the mall and buy whatever you want. And you come home and all of a sudden your house is, you're evicted. That's the cap space situation for the Saints. Not only that, but you have to follow up the legacy of Sean Payton. That's a tough task, right? When you have this spot that the Bills have for this OC position, it's one that everybody wants. And you're going to get a guy who's all in. I love that. Scrolling back up here, let's get to the super chat. Sorry for the delay on these. My friends, we're going all the way up here. Let's see who I missed first. Okay, we got Ben. Ben coming in from Canada, and he's saying, I'm all for draft capital building through the draft, but the Bills need to go out and make a statement this offseason. Sell out and win one, have balls. A lot of people are on that train. They see what the Rams are doing. They see that it works. They see that the Bills are clearly in win now mode. Go spend some money. The Bills in their cap situation, it's not the best spot to be in to go and just shell out cash. But then again, everybody always says this, the cap doesn't exist, right? If you can find a way, you can listen. I'm not the cap guy. Go talk to Greg Thompson over at Cover One if you want to talk cap. I'm not the cap guy, but from what I hear, right, it's manipulated to an extent in which you want to manipulate it to. If Brandon Beane wants to take that approach, he certainly can. It's just going to affect things on the back end. It can affect your future. It can affect who you currently have on your team and who you can pay and who you can't. But I understand the mindset. You're in win now mode. So were the Rams. They went out and signed every guy that hit the street that was a top tier player, and they're playing for a Super Bowl. So I understand that completely. We'll see. That to me, it doesn't seem like that's part of the process, right? It doesn't seem like that really fits the mold. But then again, when you're in this situation, they clearly know that they are. When it's win now territory and this window is open for success under Josh Allen and his current salary and who they have on this team. I understand switching up your mindset. Here comes the ref. Appreciate you, my man. He says Allen will get us a ring. I would be surprised if it's as soon. I wouldn't be surprised. I was going to say, ref, it's not like you to be surprised about this. I wouldn't be surprised if it's as soon as next year. It doesn't take a genius to call plays with our personnel. I agree. It doesn't take a top-tier guy, but the cool thing is we're going to get a top-tier guy, in my opinion. The Bills have been so well run over the last several years, putting each individual, spot, they fill it with the right guy. That's what they've done. Starting with the GM, obviously, head coach, D coordinator, OC, quarterback, wide receiver position, you name it, man. What have the Bills not nailed? Obviously, there's little, crevices here and there, that need to be filled. That's with every team. But there's a reason that Brian Daboll is off to coach the Giants. It's because what the Bills are doing is working, and everybody else wants a piece of that. So who wouldn't want a piece of Josh Allen in this success right now? Every possible candidate is salivating at the mouth for the opportunity to coach Josh Allen. Jason Miller coming in again. He's saying, will Daboll go after Bates? He poached our practice squad running back. I, like Rico, wanted to see more of. That's another thing you got to worry about, right? Another first world problem. It's kind of like what the Bills had always done to the Carolina Panthers, right? The Panthers were in a down spot. The Bills were rebuilding under Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane, and they took a lot of stuff from Carolina. That's a well-known thing. That's something that you have to worry about. Does Daboll have that ability to take from the Bills in areas that he thinks he can? Bates, I don't know. I'll tell you this: if I'm Beane and McDermott, I'm not letting him go after the way things went on that offensive line to end the year. Like I said on several shows, Bates was a gift from God to end the season. I'm not giving that up easily. So we'll see. But that's to me, no, I would hope not. But we'll ultimately see. This will be an interesting offseason, seeing what Brian Daboll winds up doing and how it affects the Bills, and also what the Bills wind up doing and how that ultimately affects what they have going on right now. Ref coming back in saying the biggest difference between OC and head coach is Daboll won't be up in the booth anymore. He did not hit his peak until he sat upstairs. That's a good point. I mean, there's a lot of things that are, different between OC and head coach, clearly. And we'll see that play out here. I mean, once again, I'm shocked that that Josh McDaniels is leaving. It just felt like he never was going to, but I guess you take a look at what the current situation is with New England, and you're like, all right, no better time than now. But there are drastic changes, and that's why, oftentimes it doesn't wind up working out the way you think it will. Just because you're a great OC, a great DC, whatever, it doesn't mean you're going to be a great head coach. And often, other times, there's candidates who you'd never think would be a good hire. I mean, I love Colin Cowherd, and I don't want to misquote it, but I think it was him who did not like the Sean McDermott hire. You listen to Colin Cowherd like I do every day. I don't think there's a coach out there other than Andy Reid and the staples that Colin Cowherd loves more than Sean McDermott. There's when you don't know, and I think it was Quinn, I think, from Cover One, who tweeted this out, which I thought was a really good point. And if it wasn't him, forgive me, but I'm almost positive it was. He said that oftentimes these guys who become successes in these coaching roles, you never knew who they were before they became a success. Brian Daboll's a great example. I personally didn't know Brian Daboll until he came to the Bills. And I think there's a lot of people out there who would have said the same. There's nobody who wanted Brian Daboll to be their head coach in any capacity before he went to the Bills and had success. So there are guys out there who are succeeding. You just don't know who they are yet, and they haven't had a chance to shine. So that's another reason to keep, an open mind during all of these different movements and, how things progress as the offseason goes on. All right, that's Brian Daboll off to New York. Wish him the best, and we'll keep you updated, obviously, on when the Bills fill that vacancy at OC. One more storyline that came out this weekend. I don't know if you guys heard it. There's this dude, number 12, I think he wears. He's won a couple of rings in his day. Tom Brady. Retired? Didn't retire? What is going on in Tampa Bay? And what is going on in the world of TB12? It was announced, of course, in Brady fashion on Saturday from Adam Schefter that Tom Brady, after 22 prolific years in the National Football League, is hanging up the cleats. So we're told. And all of a sudden, everybody, Brady this, Brady that, he's gone, retired. But everybody's said it but Tom Brady. And to me, it's the most Brady thing ever, right? One, of course, that story leaks the day before the championship weekend, the championship games, right? Of course. Because even when Tom Brady's not playing in the games, he's got to dominate the news headlines. Championship weekend, Brady's out. Well, let's leak the story this weekend, right? And you got 2 games tomorrow that decide the Super Bowl, but all of a sudden nobody cares because the greatest of all time just decided that even though he is still playing at a level that not nearly the majority of the NFL is touching, he's hanging it up. I mean, Brady's last touchdown pass supposedly was an absolute dime, a bomb. Tom Brady is playing better football right now than, what is there? 32 teams, and out of those 32 teams in their quarterback situation, Tom Brady's playing better than probably 27 of them, and he's hanging it up. It's unprecedented. I mean, look at Ben Roethlisberger. He's retiring. He should have retired 3 years ago. Ben Roethlisberger is a shell of himself. He could barely walk after this year ended. He could barely walk. Drew Brees, he played very well up until the end, but it was inevitable that he had to retire. Peyton Manning, the wheels were falling off. He was in Denver. He was carried by an unbelievable defense. He just had to be a good game manager to get that Super Bowl ring before he hung it up. Tom Brady here, if he retires, he's retiring at a point where you've really never seen anybody else retire. Maybe, Calvin Johnson, obviously, but that's a whole different story. It's a whole different position. And he didn't play nearly as long as Tom Brady, and he's not nearly as old as he is. Tom Brady is at the age that he's at, 44, and he's still playing better than 95% of quarterbacks in the NFL. And he is so quote, retired, right? But then again, here we are. We're talking about it in quotes. We're talking about it with question marks surrounding it because apparently he's not retired. And that to me is, of course, yet again, another Brady thing, right? It's such a Brady thing because now all anybody cares about and talks about is Tom Brady. The Super Bowl is happening in 2 weeks, but during this 2-week period of downtime where there's no football, it's going to be what's going on with Brady. That's the story. I don't know what's going on with him, but I'll tell you this. The media has had a field day with Tom Brady. And I understand all of us in here, we can't stand Tommy Boy. He's just utterly dominated and owned us and spit in our face for 2 decades. I get it. But you'd be, ignorant to say that the NFL media, they wanted Tom to fall from the get-go. They wanted any opportunity they had to take Tom down at the knees, whether it was Deflategate, Spygate, whatever. They did everything they could to try and discredit Tom Brady. It's the truth. Because when you're, like I said earlier in the show, when it's lonely at the top and when you're up there, everybody trying to climb up to that position is trying to drag you down. Tom Brady was at the top for over 2 decades, and he went through a variety of media storms trying to discredit him. If I'm Tom Brady, how much of a slap in the face back to all the slap in the faces you took throughout your career from the media? How much of a middle finger would it be to have your retirement leaked? Everybody thinks you're gone, and you make the entirety of that media sector who leaked it look like absolute buffoons when you say you're coming back for another year. And of course, if he comes back for another year, I mean, the Bucs are the Bucs. They were still a play away from going to the NFC Championship. They're going to go to the playoffs. They're going to be in contention. They're not going anywhere if Tom Brady sticks around. He's still playing at an incredibly high level, like I just mentioned. Does that not seem like Tom Brady? And I got to be honest with you, man. If I'm him, I don't think there'd be a cooler way to go out. Everybody thinks I'm retiring. All these talking heads leaked my retirement, didn't let me go out on my own merit. After 22 years, I don't even get to be the guy to inform the public that I'm retiring. So you know what? I got a left hand and a right hand, and I got 2 middle fingers, and I'm putting them up in your face when I say I'm back. That's what I'd do if I was him. But I ultimately think he's done. He's got to be done, right? I mean, that's what it just started to seem more and more clear as the year went on. I think when you are in a system like you are in New England for so long, when you break that system and go to an area like you do in Tampa Bay, that's just very loose. Bruce Arians is very loose. He's not Bill Belichick. You got the Antonio Brown situation. You got a variety of big wigs on that team. It's just, you got your Super Bowl there, right? But how long does Tom Brady want to be in that environment? It's not his environment. It's not him. I don't think Tom Brady, I think he got to be himself. I think he got to unleash a little bit in Tampa Bay, but really who Tom Brady is New England. Tom Brady is New England. That's why it fits so well for so long. It doesn't work as well as it did for Tom Brady in New England if he wasn't like Belichick, like New England, right? Tom Brady and his old aura is not Tampa Bay. And I think that that's kind of taken a toll, right? I think that you could see as the year went on, they weren't taking it as serious. Everybody on Tampa Bay got paid. They got their ring. It just wasn't, I don't know. It didn't feel like a Tom Brady led team towards the end here. I mean, they really got worked by the LA Rams. They had an incredible comeback in the second half, but they did not show up to play for the majority of that game. And a lot of it wasn't really, it wasn't Tom Brady for the most part. That's a team thing. That's a preparation thing. That's a coaching thing. But it truly is remarkable. And I see Ronald coming in here and saying, I heard the Niner rumor as well. Good God. I mean, imagine. I don't see Tom going and doing a third year somewhere else, or a third team rather. I don't see him doing that. That to me would just be a wonky way to end your career, in my opinion. I don't know if that's how he wants his legacy to be, going out, jumping from team to team as his career came to an end. Then again, who knows? Maybe he's like, screw it. I'll take an opportunity where I think I'm best fit for another year or two and go from there. But it truly is remarkable as you reflect on the career of Tom Brady, because I do think it's, it's at its end. It's just a matter of when he's going to come out and say it. It is remarkable to reflect on his career. We'll never see anything like it again in our lifetime. We'll never experience utter domination from another organization the way the Bills did to him. It's never been done by any other quarterback or any other team ever. He ended his career with the best winning percentage against another organization in NFL history, the most wins against another organization in NFL history. We'll never see that again. And as awful as it was, and it was awful, I mean, it was just awful. When you look back on it, knowing that it's all done, one, it's a relief. Two, you look at how good the Bills are now, and it makes you realize, like, they're that good, but the Patriots were that good against the Bills for that long. It's insane. It was insane how good they were with so many different types of teams for so long. The guy played 2 different Hall of Fame careers. It's remarkable. The NFL will never be the same without Tom Brady, especially as a Bills fan. Think about that. My whole life, I'm 24. Brady played 22 years. So for the entirety of my NFL fanhood, to the point where I can remember, it was just Brady. That was it. It was Brady. He was the antagonist in my football fanhood story. And he always was, every single year until he went to Tampa Bay. So from when I was in diapers to when I was graduating college and beyond, he was the antagonist. It was insane. And really, when you think about that, what else can you relate that to? And what else could you ever imagine ever being close to that? It's insanity what the guy did. And I was so used to having him in the league for so long. When you step back and think about him not being there, it's crazy. Then it also paints a picture of the transition, the crazy transition from your childhood, or, for other people who are, older. It truly paints the transition from one era of football to the next. All those guys are gone now. And Aaron Rodgers will be gone soon, but he was a bit after the initial, Roethlisberger, Brady, Manning, obviously. But once Rodgers is gone, that'll truly be the final nail of like the just complete transition from one era of football to the next. And the next, we are in the driver's seat. That's the cool thing. All these generational talents, all these eras that will go down in history. That era is done. I think it ends officially with Rodgers, but it really does end in a way now with Brady gone. And now it's Allen. It's Mahomes. And who else is going to find their way in there? Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. List goes on and on. So many young, amazingly talented quarterbacks. And that's where it's going. But right now, who's at the top of that generation? The guy we got, 17. And the guy over in Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes. It's crazy. It's just crazy. Like, think about it. Like, it's truly, you're watching the generational transition right before your eyes, and it only happens every 20, 25 years. And in my lifetime, this is really the first time. This is the first overhaul, the first true full transition, because we see what wins in this league now. You can't draft a guy like Tom Brady or Peyton Manning anymore and expect to win. I mean, a guy like that is like Mac Jones, right? Pocket guy, very unathletic, a guy who's, he's capable. He's capable of winning a game. He's capable of keeping you in contention, but he's not what's winning you games in this current era of the NFL. He's not a superstar, but those guys in that era were superstars. And it's just crazy to see how it's all shifted. And of course, as Bills fans, we've been waiting to have our turn at the generational talent. And here it is. And the new generation that my kids will be talking about 25 years from now. As the way things are going right now, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and the variety of other young quarterbacks, they're writing that script right now. And it's crazy. But the script my whole life, man, it was a sad, sad tale where Tom Brady was the antagonist, and then he won every single battle. And he's gone now. And I just think, obviously there's a lot of resentment, obviously, and there always will be. But truly think about the fact that when you go to turn on your TV next year to watch football, and there's no Tom Brady that anybody's talking about, it's going to be a completely different NFL. Completely different. Truly crazy to think about. Now, it all comes down to, when are we going to find out if he actually retired? And is he going to pull a Brady and not retire? That's the question. I think it's crazy now. We've gone almost 3 full days here. He's said nothing. We've heard nothing. And Adam Schefter continues to double down on it. ESPN doubles down on it. Anybody with any credentials or credibility has confirmed, or not confirmed, but they have essentially spoken on Brady's retirement without it actually being confirmed from him, from the mouth of the person who's actually retiring. It's a wild story. Kind of reminds you of Brett Favre back in the day, and the roller coaster he put the media through between not retiring and retiring, and going back to Green Bay and going to the Jets and then going to Minnesota, just all over the place. But if it winds up sticking before I see you again next week, end of an era, Tom Brady, and as a collective, I'll speak for Bills Mafia when I say that you got to respect it. You got to respect what he did. If you don't respect it, you're nuts. You have to have respect for it. But with that said, don't let the door hit you on the way out, TB12. Don't let it hit you. All right. Wrong song. We are up and out here. 123 in the books here on a Monday night. And I'm so stoked I got to spend it with you. Here is my task for you guys. Little homework for you. We got some big things in the works here at Buffalo Fanatics, and it's going to start this offseason. This coming year, starting in the offseason and going into the regular season, this is going to be the biggest and greatest year ever from Buffalo Fanatics. We got a lot of awesome stuff in the works, but here's my homework for you. I want to hear what you guys want from us. Any and all ideas are welcome. We want to know, what do you think can make Buffalo Fanatics better? What do you want to see on the channel? It can be anything. We have so many different ideas that we're trying to cook up, so many things in the works, but we want to hear from the people that it starts with, and that's, of course, all you awesome people. So do me a favor. I always go back after these episodes, and I look through the comments, not the live chat comments, but the comments on the episode once the show is done. I always go back through and I interact and I look at them. Do me a favor. Hop in that comment section and let me know something that you want to see from the Buffalo Fanatics going forward. You could be one thing, it could be 100 things. Let us know. Any and all ideas are welcome. But just know this, we have a lot in the works. This coming year is going to be bigger and better than ever. But it starts with you guys. We want to make sure you get what you're after, so we want to hear from you. Let us know in the comments, and I'll be sure to read through all of them, and I'll comment back to you with thoughts and ideas as well. Awesome stuff. I'll be back here again a week from tonight, Monday, 8 p.m. next week. We'll talk Super Bowl and whatever the hell else happens during this week. But until then, I'm signing off. Z-Bot, the smoke break. Enjoy the week, everybody, and always go Bills.